Hello everyone, this is Donnie, aka Elevated with Dota Alchemy, and today we are going to talk about the top 4 heroes to win pubs with in patch 7.16. And let's start by talking about a carry. We're going to talk about Spectre. Spectre might seem a strange choice for this list because the game is very laning focused and Spectre has one of the worst laning stages in the game. However, Spectre has been buffed a lot recently, and the lowered cooldown on her Spectral Dagger makes it a pretty effective nuke for trading and CSing in the early game. One other thing that a lot of people are now starting to realize is that if you show up to lane with a ton of regen, generally speaking, you can outlast the offlaner or an aggressive dual offlane because most people still tend to not buy enough regen and prioritize buying other items instead of showing up to lane with a bunch of tangos. So as Spectre, I highly recommend showing up to lane with a stout shield, 2 sets of tangos, a health potion, and whatever mana you can fit in your build after that. The most important thing on Spectre is that you have to reach level 6. Level 6 is where Spectre becomes strong. And a lot of people might be saying, hey, wait, I thought Spectre was only strong once you got to the late game. But level 6 gives Spectre Haunt, and Haunt is the reason that Spectre is one of the most powerful heroes in the game, because Haunt allows you to take a perfect team fight. Haunt is the only ability in the game besides Zeus' Thunder God's Wrath that allows you to see where every single hero on the enemy team is exactly. This allows you to decide where and when to fight and who to target perfectly. Spectre may be kind of weak in the early stages of the game, but if you're immediately teleporting onto a low HP hero, there's a very good chance that you're going to net yourself a kill, regardless of how much farm you have. This means that Spectre can actually be a very aggressive hero every time that Haunt is up. And this is something that I think a lot of people overlook in their gameplay as Spectre. And they think they just need to farm for their Radiance, and then farm for their Manta, and then farm for their Heart, and then they can play the actual game. But the fact of the matter is you should be looking to get kills with Spectre every single time Haunt is off cooldown. You should be using it to help your team secure objectives by giving them perfect vision, taking a fight when the other team is not ready for you. And in that way, all these little extra kills will add up to actually get you a Radiance timing pretty early. To take advantage of this, you need to build a few smaller items, but even with just Phase, Aquila, Urn, and maybe one other item, Spectre can fight pretty effectively if you use Haunt correctly. One other underrated aspect of Spectre is just how powerful Spectral Dagger is, and the Spectral Dagger talents I think are actually better than the ones that make you tanky, because if you take the Spectral Dagger talents, you can essentially be hasted with free pathing permanently. Alright, moving on to support. But Donnie, Reddit says you can't gain MMR as a support player. What are you talking about? Well, my friends, Warlock is one of those support players that can have carry level impact if you play him correctly. In the current meta, Shadow Word is one of the best sustaining spells in the game for the laning stage, which helps you and your carry deal with hard lanes or abuse weak ones. It's a very good pair with Spectre, for example. Warlock literally needs no items to have insane impact in the game, but when he does get farm, he also scales very well. Fatal Bonds allows him to make weak early game heroes feel strong by boosting the damage on the enemy heroes. Shadow Word makes weak laners feel strong by giving them sustain. And this is why Warlock should really just spend most of the early and mid game hanging out with his core heroes and making them stronger than they normally would be. I see a lot of Warlock players trying to get their farm, they want to get their Midas, they want to get their Ag's Refresher, but you don't even need that on Warlock. You literally don't need any items. All you have to do is drop the rock, Fatal Bonds, and everybody explodes. No matter what your farm level is, that will happen. And that's the difference between Warlock and, say, a hero like Undying, who's also a very strong laner and makes his core stronger. Warlock can solo win fights, regardless of his farm and regardless of the state of the game, if you have good positioning and good timing. It's time to take a trip to the offlane for this next hero. We're going to be talking about Axe. Axe has always been a hero that can completely change the course of a game due to the ridiculous amount of power he has with his Blink, Berserker's Call, Blade Mail combo. It doesn't matter if he's 20,000 net worth behind the enemy carry, he can still kill that carry with this combo at most stages of the game. One of the hardest things for Axe, though, is to get those items and to get through the laning stage. But recently, Battle Hunger was buffed, and he now has an insane amount of damage and the ability to out-trade supports who would normally bully him out of lane. All it took was a little bit of a build change and a buff to the skill that most people ignored, and now Axe is one of the strongest laners in the game, especially in the dual offlane meta. Even in a 1 vs 3 lane, if you simply 1v1 each individual support, you usually can burn out their regen much faster than they can deal with yours, especially because you usually show up to lane with more regen in the first place. And once you've bullied out the supports, you can do what every Axe player loves to do, which is just bully the carry and force them into the jungle, cut the wave, and take the tower very quickly, which can result in a very quick blink dagger. Axe is one of those heroes that lets his team play aggressive because anybody is going to feel pretty safe when there's an Axe sitting behind them. Axe's counter initiation ability is incredibly powerful, and that's why once you have your blink dagger, you should be sitting behind your cores to make them able to push aggressively, try and take towers, and counter initiate and win fights to get the rest of your gold. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of Axe players making, is that because Axe can push very quickly with counter helix, and because Axe does do better when he has more items, people tend to farm with him showing on the map. And that means that the enemy team knows exactly where Axe is, and they know exactly where he's not, making it very easy to attack the rest of Axe's team. So what you should be doing is playing the counter initiation game at least until you have a blade mail, because when you have a blade mail, then your solo kill potential goes up quite a bit. Even then, you should still be staying off the map, because once you've made the enemy team fear showing anywhere on the map, you've effectively restricted where they can farm, and you can empower your team to get a big gold advantage. And the final hero on this list is right in the mid lane, and that is Zeus. Zeus has been the king of pubs for quite some time now, and he's still getting buffed. He was buffed as recently as 7.16, and Zeus has been a happy little god ever since they introduced spell amplification to the game. And now that Kaya exists and he got an Aghanim Scepter rework, Zeus is incredibly strong. Like Spectre, he's a hero that can provide perfect vision in a fight. I wonder if it's a coincidence that these two heroes are the highest win rates in pubs. Anyway, he's also the only hero that can solo deward the entire map for free. And vision control is a huge deal, for obvious reasons. At this point, I would say that Zeus has been a little bit overbuffed. For example, his lightning bolt with just a Kaya in his inventory does over 400 damage for 135 mana on a 6-second cooldown. Compare that to Lina, whose Laguna Blade, her ultimate, has a 70-second cooldown at level 1, 450 damage, and costs 280 mana. That seems pretty ridiculous to me when you factor in that Lightning Bolt is ground targetable, gives True Sight, and gets a mini stun with one of his later talents. In addition to his raw damage, Zeus provides global impact, which means that he can help out the uncoordinated fights that you often see in pubs all over the map. He also provides very strong wave clear and scales extremely well into the late game. The only real counter to Zeus is BKB and Pipe, and both of these are temporary solutions. In my opinion, you don't even really need to be very good at Zeus, and you will usually still do more damage than anyone else in the game, and often more damage than the entire other team. One final thing is that he freely counters one of the most commonly purchased items in the game in pubs, Shadowblade, and that's probably why we see him at the top of the win rate charts consistently at this point. So what do all these heroes have in common? Late game scaling, heavy team fight ability, a low farm, high power spike, lots of recent buffs, very good talents. And one final thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that all four of these heroes have a sort of area denial effect. Spectre presses Haunt with Radiance and people kind of have to scatter and run away. Zeus puts his Nimbus Cloud and everybody wants to not fight underneath that. Warlock has a massive AoE slow, and also his Rock is a big AoE, so it forces people to split up as well. And finally, Axe is just one of those heroes where you really don't want to group up, because if you are grouped up, you usually lose the fight when Axe blinks in. So in addition to heavy impact and good scaling, all of these heroes force the other team to play in a very uncomfortable way. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you go win some MMR with these heroes. Let me know in the comment section below which is your favorite hero to win games with in patch 7.16. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next time.